Welcome to Sac Taff, and I will continue reading from my book, A Sacrifice of a Lifetime. Continue from the last video, and it took me to chapter 10. I'm trying to think how many chapters are in this book, because I think there's about 14 or 15 chapters, and we can't be at the end of the book, surely not. Let me see. We've got epilogue, and then let me check. I think it's 17 chapters. Just want to check. 17 chapters. To be honest, it's not bad. I've got through the book. I don't think I'm going to be able to get through the book by the end of the year, but it's not bad that I've managed to get so far, and I've actually started writing the book, and I'm actually going to focus on finishing the book for 2026, because I think if you say that, and especially if you write it down or something like that, you'll stick to it. And it would be nice, because it would be nice to know that I've gone through the book and shared a bit of it with you. But when I do finish reading the book, there are still topics in relation to the book that I will drift into and talk about. Eventually, maybe I might get a guest to come in or something. Maybe we'll see how it goes. And then you'll see. I'll see how. I don't even know how it's going to develop. I've got an idea, because I've sort of taken notes of things that I can cover and how I can expand on certain topics that I've spoken about. And it will drift into other things as well. And maybe I might, and most probably will, talk about Taffy Howe and go into more depth about Taffy Howe as well, and because a lot of people have asked me for part 2. I have written part 2 of Taffy Howe, but I don't think I want to. If I do part 2 of Taffy Howe, it's not going to be what I've written. It's not going to. I've decided no, for the character, how the character's developed. It's not going to be how it's written. That's why sometimes it takes time to write a novel or a novella. It takes time, because you have to, if it's to do with issues that are going in your life, or issues that you can relate to, say it's an issue that you can relate to, it needs to be integral. So when you're talking about it and people are listening, it's nice if they can learn something from it, feel inspired by it, encouraged by it, or something. There has to be some sort of a foundation of integrity there. And I'm not saying there wasn't when I wrote part 2, but it's not. Now I've written it, and then time's moved on. I know that's not how I want to drift on to part 2. To be honest, now I'm talking about it, I probably will do part 2 and then put the whole book together, merge it in. I'm not going to say one part and 2 parts, but I think so, yeah. And then what I most probably can do is, when I've finished talking about Taffy Howe and going through some other issues in relation to it, I can then talk about Taffy Howe, and then I guess I can develop the book as I'm talking to you, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So anyway, in chapter 10, you're probably saying no. Hopefully not. Hopefully you know what I mean. In chapter 10 of A Sacrifice of a Lifetime, on Sunday morning, Rebecca awoke from a peaceful sleep to an enjoyable aroma of bacon. And to this day, I remember that. I remember waking up. It's really nice when you have childhood memories. Nice childhood memories that take you back. You feel content and safe. It's really nice to have those moments. So it was a delight to wake up with the realization that her sister Bernice was baking cakes, buns in the kitchen. Rebecca had given up going regularly to church on Sunday. Her faith was still strong, but she wanted to concentrate more on her social life. And when she says that her faith was still strong, her faith wasn't strong. If her faith was still strong, and maybe you might not agree with it, but I can't really say no, she wouldn't have stopped going to church, because people do have strong faith and sometimes choose to take a step back from going to church. That's the decision. But the way that Rebecca was living is not in relation to having a strong faith. It's not. I mean, you know, the men that she's getting involved with and how she's living her life is not a way that she should really be living, and she knows it. She knows it. So, but to her at that time, she's thinking, you know, her faith is still strong. But she wanted to concentrate on her social life. So if her faith was still strong, she would not be putting her social life before, you know, going to church. But she was young. So I understand what I was saying. I understand it. Because you sort of think, church is important to me, but I want to go out on a Saturday night, and, you know, when I come in, I want to know that I can rest and wake up in the morning. I don't have to wake up too early and this, that, what have you. And I can just live my life how I want. And that's how she was most probably thinking. But when she made that decision, you just see how her life just began to deteriorate. And you could probably say, yeah, you know, I don't go to church and my life hasn't deteriorated, but I'm talking from my own experience, because I'm talking about how I was raised up and the foundation of, I believe that my parents had that foundation as regards to their faith, regarding their marriage. To me, they had a good marriage. Very rarely heard them argue. Very rarely. My dad, like I say, he treated my mum with respect, and you could tell they had a good relationship. It just felt like they were a team. You couldn't, you know, go to one parent and put one parent. You couldn't. How can I say? If there was an issue with a child, they would deal with it together, and they'd be on the same level. They'd be on the same way of thinking, and the situation would be resolved because they were thinking in the same way. It was just really nice to see. It was really nice to have that as an example. It gave me security, and I feel very blessed to have experienced that. I really, really do. So, and yeah, and then obviously the children were well looked after, well cared for, and so on and so forth. And we had a really good home life. It was very peaceful, you know. Yeah. So anyway, so her faith was still strong. This is what she's saying. But she wanted to concentrate on her social life. This meant sometimes staying out late on Saturday night, and allowing herself the luxury of lying in and making the most of her Sunday mornings. You see, even before I've even read it, I'm sort of going back into that thinking of how I was thinking then, you know. I'm going to underline that for a particular reason, because when I do, let me see if I can get my pencil. I should have got it. It would have helped if I got it beforehand, wouldn't it? Yeah, I just feel like I'll underline that so I can sort of like go over that a little bit more. It's important, these things, do you know what I mean? One thing, I don't like dictating, but I do like sharing. And I like listening to people and their points of view as well. So her mind turned to last night's introduction. She wondered what her father thought about Vincent, because she had taken her boyfriend home for the first time, and Vincent met Rebecca's father, and she introduced Vincent as her friend. If you haven't watched any of my other videos, if you would like to, you know, you can sort of look at the other videos as well, so you'll sort of know what I'm talking about. And basically what it is, this is I'm talking from my book, A Sacrifice of a Lifetime. This was my first book that I wrote, and basically it's quite controversial. People read the book, and some people couldn't understand why I wrote it, and some people were a little bit rude as regards to certain issues that I cover. It was quite insultive. Some people, you know, were very sort of negative as regards to why I wrote it. They didn't understand why I'd written it. So that's why I'm doing a podcast, because I wanted to talk about the book and why I'd written the book, and just to basically share more about certain issues and topics and so on and so forth. And I feel like I've got through the book quite quickly. And who knows, I might go through it again, but maybe try and look at it from a different angle. What can I see in this book from a different angle? You know, I don't know. This is the beauty of doing things like this. You know, there's some substance there, and you know, as it moves forward and flows, something, fruit comes from it, and you're not quite sure what, but you know something's going to come from it. That's good. So she's introduced her her boyfriend as Vincent. She doesn't even think he's a boyfriend, to be honest. She's just dating him for the sake of it, because she wants to improve her social life, which is very dangerous, because he's sort of like engaging with her, and it's not very nice for Rebecca to do that. But she's young and she doesn't really understand what she's doing. At this time, she's 17 and a half. Yeah, so, yeah, and she wondered what her father thought about Vincent, and particularly his age, because he does look a lot older than her. He has told her that he's 27, right? That's what he has told her. She read for a time in bed, and half the morning had gone before she decided to get ready for the day. And she was nervous about confronting her father, but when she went downstairs, nothing was said. This came as a total surprise to Rebecca, who assumed that Mr. Barracu must have liked Vincent. I think he must have been quite pleased, to be honest, because Vincent looked quite mature, and he looked like, you know, responsible. He looked like a gentleman. He looked kind and considerate. And I think her father must have picked up on it. So that evening, Vincent telephoned her wanting to know whether her father had said anything about him. And it was agreed that he should take her to the local pictures. Okay, I think I need to edit that. Do you know what I mean? That doesn't really, it makes sense, but it doesn't. She was not strongly attracted to him, but he gave her a feeling of contentment. His reliability made her feel safe and secure in the short time that she had known him. As she began to look and feel a lot happier, she began also to lose a few more inches from her rounded figure, even though Rebecca wasn't, she didn't really have any inches to lose. But you know, when you're younger, you sort of never satisfied. You sort of think, no, I could do with losing a bit more. And this, that, what have you, yeah. Yeah. All right, so this is the bit where Vincent calls, I think this is the bit where Vincent calls Rebecca and tells her something which is quite vital. On one occasion, Vincent telephoned Rebecca at 9:50. It's amazing how I've got that time. All right. On Saturday evening, to explain that he could not take her out that evening because his car had broken down. Maybe I'm reading into it in the wrong way. Anyway, although she had been waiting anxiously, she appreciated his understanding manner. And was pleased that he had taken the trouble to ring her. That doesn't make... Anyway, I'm going to edit it. All right. Rebecca, I want you to know that I do love you, he said. She was too shy to respond to such a comment, even though she didn't love him, though. No. She liked him, but not love. So there was she couldn't really say the same back, because it's not nice to say if you don't mean it. And she did not, in any case, really want to say anything that she did not actually mean, you see. So Rebecca, he continued, there's one thing I think you ought to know. What's that? Well, when I first met you, I told you I was 27, yes. Well, I'm not. I'll be 30 in January. I remember him saying he was 34, though. I'm sure he said 34. He was 17 years older. So I'll put 34. I don't remember him saying 30. That's why. Was all she was able to say. It made sense because he didn't look 27. He looked older than 27. It just made sense to her. And she was not surprised because Vincent looked about 30. He did. But he looked, I think he said 34 though. He was 17 years older. So I don't know why I've written 30. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, I don't know. Which was why she was worried about her father. Might have thought he was too old for her, yeah. She was aware too that other people were conscious of the age gap. Does it matter? Vincent asked when she said nothing more. No, she said. Now I would have said, why did you lie about your age? It's obvious why, because he would have thought that he was too old for her. Because I remember when he was driving, we were going somewhere, and I think it was on the way back, he asked me how old I was, and I said 17 and a half, and I remember his reaction. It was like, and he just carried on driving, and I'm sort of thinking, I sort of knew that he was older, but he said 27, and I thought, fair enough. I mean, how do you feel about age? Do you think it makes a difference if someone's that older than someone like 17? He would have been, because he's saying he's 30, Rebecca's 17 and a half, 18, 19, 20. So he's saying he's 12 and a half years older than her. That might have been it. I do recall him saying 34. I'm sure he said 34. But anyway, he could have been lying about 30. Do you know? He could have been lying. Maybe further along he says, oh, I've got something to do. I don't think he does. So what do you think about that age gap? What do you think about that age gap? Do you think it's too much for a 17-and-a-half-year-old to be dating someone who's 12 and a half years older than you? I feel as though, I know people say age is just a number. Age is just a number, but, if the age group is too wide, it can create some sort of a difficulty in the long run, maybe, or am I wrong? I don't know, It's not really good for me to judge anyway, but just thinking about Rebecca's situation, do you think that the age group is too wide? At the time, I didn't. I just thought, he's responsible, he's kind. I wasn't really interested in going out with, at that age, boys that age, because I just felt like they couldn't really offer me what I wanted. And I didn't want to be taken advantage of or used in the wrong way, even though I know older men can do that as well. But back in those days, it was a bit different then, I just felt it was anyway. And I was okay going out with someone older than me. But like I said, I wasn't really interested in him. It was just nice to have a companion, and it was nice to go out on a Friday and Saturday night, and he had a car, he was taking me to nice places. You could tell that he was doing well with his business because he, was able to pay for things and so on and so forth. He looked like he was quite, comfortable financially, and that was it. If it's the other way round, if it was a woman who was 30 and she was dating someone who was 17 and a half, would that make a difference? What do you think? Does that make a difference? I feel it, in a way, it does make a difference, really, don't you think? It does make a difference. But it shouldn't. In this day and age, I don't think you can say that now. You can't really say, the question would be, well, why would it make a difference? Yeah, because you do, anyway, I've seen younger men go out with older women, to be honest. But I think it's because she's not 18 yet. That's where I think it's quite delicate. She's 17 and a half. She's not 18 yet. She's not an adult. She's still really a child. And he's 30. Isn't it? That's what it is. And it's the same if it was the other way round. You're an adult grown woman and he's still really a child. He's not 18 yet. I guess that's what the sensitive side of it is. I guess that's what it is, yeah. Yeah, so there you go. So, what happens next? Yeah. Yeah. So the following Saturday, he failed to turn up again, and this time he did not call her. He felt greatly disappointed. She felt greatly disappointed until the following day when he telephoned to apologise and explain that his car had broken down again, and this time he could not find her phone box. Whoa! Because I'm sort of thinking when I read that, right, that he failed to turn up. The first time he called, and the second one, I'm sort of thinking, why can't you just use your phone? And no, we didn't have the mobile phones then, or maybe we did, but not everybody had them. Weird reading that. It is. Yeah, so he couldn't find the phone box. He took her to the local cinema that evening. Hang on. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. The good old phone box brings back memories. Yeah. So 3 weeks later, a new man came into Rebecca's life. He walked into the shop and asked if he could use the toilet. He looked familiar to Rebecca, but she was not able to. She was not sure where she'd seen him before. She suddenly remembered that she had spotted him the day before sitting in a white sports car with another man in the driver's seat outside the shop. He had been peering through the window for quite a while, observing both the shop and Rebecca, making her feel embarrassed, but at the same time giving her a feeling of excitement. Oh. He admitted that he had seen her through the shop window the day before and told her his name was Wayne and that he was a plumber.